Andrew Rasiulis is standing by. He's a retired official with the Department of National Defense. Andrew, good to see you. Your thoughts on this initial plan being pushed apparently by the Trump administration?
Yeah, so we have to remember this is a draft. The authors are Vitkov for the United States and Dmitriev for the Russians. The Russians officially say these are only contacts. There is no plan. So we're at that kind of stage now. The other thing we have to remember is that the Americans have sent a Department of the Army team, including the Secretary of the Army, to Kyiv to talk to Zelensky about this stuff today. Lots of moving pieces. What my takeaway, though, is that the American proposals / with the Russians kind of reflects the battlefield reality on the ground, in the sense that, yes, the Ukrainians, for example, would have to walk back from the rest of the Donbass, like the fortress belt. That would then be declared a demilitarized zone. In turn, the Russians would stop advancing below in the two oblasts, Zaporizhia and Kherson. So what we're getting here is, I think, a reflection of battlefield realities. The balance of forces do favor the Russians. So, and I've always said for some time now that Ukraine, at the end of the day, will come out with the shorter end of the stick, which this plan implies. But again, I emphasize that reflects battlefield reality. When the Europeans and the Ukrainians say they reject it out of hand and they want their plan, they don't seem to have the military power to do that, actually.
20% of the country, though, is what we're talking about. As you know, Andrew, the Donbass, Donetsk, Luhansk, this is an area that the Ukrainians have been fighting to try and hold on to. And Zelensky, the leader of Ukraine, has said he cannot cede any Ukrainian territory. I wonder how this is going to play out now the Europeans are saying we're not going to accept this either. So what's the path forward here?
Well, the path forward on the ceding territory, it's very legalistic. There are two terms. De jure, which means by law, and de facto, which means as a matter of fact. Now, the Ukrainians have for months now recognized that they lack the military strength to push the Russians out of that 20% of territory back to the 91 borders, including Crimea. So the Ukrainians have said they are looking at a de facto recognition, and then diplomatically they would try to work at resolving this over the long term. The Russians, of course, insist on legally, like de jure, by law, which they've said they've annexed. That's a very important distinction, and that distinction could actually lead to a diplomatic understanding between the two sides. The other factor that we're gathering from this plan is that while the Ukrainians would not be required to legally recognize this, they would only do it as a matter of fact, the United States, on the other hand, would recognize the Donbass and Crimea as legally part of Russia. So that would be a bit of more of a compromise for the Russian side, a give for the Russians. So there's a lot of moving parts in here.
Andrew, I appreciate you taking some time for CTV today to give us your thoughts on this one.
You're very welcome, Todd.
Andrew Rasiulis joining us.